So we're going to talk about zoning today. Everyone I meet, everywhere I go, people in Ku-ring-gai saying to me, Sash, what's going on with this rezoning? Will I be able to build this? Will I be able to sell to a developer? I heard about this dual occupancy. Can I now subdivide my land? Oh my God, are they going to put apartments everywhere? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to give you some answers today. I've done the research for you because I know you're sitting at home. You haven't done anything. You're just curious about what's going on. So I've done it all for you, but I'm still wrapping my head around it, but I'm going to give you my understanding. Asterisk, I am not a professional advisor on property development or anything like that. It's actually a little bit complicated. There's actually two different things happening. And I think people are morphing them together. Number one, and they're both from state government. So number one is the Transit Orientated Development Program, TOD, whatever you want to call it. This is something that's obviously, it's a state government rezoning without council discussion. So it's not like they've got together with all the councils and had a yarn about it. They've just said, hey, this is what's happening. Why is it happening? It's a response to the housing crisis. And I guess basically what happens is there's going to be rezoning around certain stations. So there's two phases. There's phase one, which is basically reveals the first 8 suburbs to be rezoned, and it's to allow for more new and affordable homes. They are Bankstown, The Bays, Bella Vista, Crow's Nest, Homebush, Kellyville, Macquarie Park. And you're like, well, how does that work? Because I'm hearing about it up here. It also includes Hornsby. So phase one of the Transport Orientated Program, development program, the only place it affects near Ku-ring-gai is Hornsby. So in short, you've got this Transport Orientated Development Program. It's a state government thing. It's rezoning of certain suburbs around stations. It's response to the housing crisis. It doesn't affect Ku-ring-gai government at all in its first phase. Sorry, Ku-ring-gai Council or any of its suburbs. Its first phase, the closest suburb to you, if you're a Ku-ring-gai resident getting a little bit worried about it, is Hornsby. So that's happening now. But there is a second phase to this, and this is where if you live in Ku-ring-gai, you're a little bit worried. I've had people in St Ives, Wahroonga, Warrawee, Turramurra. Oh my God, there's apartments going to go up everywhere. It's not the case. So keep listening. So second phase of the TOD, or Transport Orientated Development Program, will focus on precincts that have existing infrastructure and are located within 400 metres. So that's the other important thing. If you're not within 400 metres of a station, again, you can tick the box, you're fine. You're not going to have anything go up next to you. Unless you're at 405 metres, your neighbour might have a 6-storey building, so you might be in a bit of trouble. It's only certain railway stations across Sydney. There are only 4 proposed Ku-ring-gai suburbs. So if you're in Wahroonga, Warrawee, Turramurra, Pymble, whatever it might be, St Ives, it's not going to affect you. I'm going to give you, as a layman, my understanding of the current situation and some of the hot questions that are being asked. So it affects you only if you're in Roseville, Lindfield, Killara or Gordon. They are the 4. In these 4 locations, the changes will allow for dwellings to be built up to 21 metres high. That's a lot. So that's like 6 stories, maybe even 7, give or take. So you probably, if you are within 400 metres of the station and you're in your house and you're enjoying your life, yes, it affects you. If you're in those 4 suburbs, you're within 400 metres, there's a good chance the land you're sitting on right now could potentially have an apartment block built on it or next to it. So there you go. I'm in those 4 suburbs, Roseville, Lindfield, Killara, Gordon. I live within 400 metres of the station. I'm sitting on a block of land that could be developed up to 21 metres high, meaning a pretty decent apartment block. So that's it. So supposedly when you look through this should start in April. Some other information that I can see is it's 6 to 7 stories high and the building ratios are 3:1. So to put that in perspective, roughly in Ku-ring-gai at the moment, if you had a 900 square metre block, your ratios are more like 30%. So let's say you could probably build a 300 square meter house. Now, what they're saying here is I own 900 square meters. My ratios are 3-1. My bush maths would mean you now could build 7 stories high and your total square meterage of living would be 2,700 square meters. So we're talking like 6 stories high, and I guess you're probably talking 30 apartments. That's what it means. So it's a lot. Will it most likely go ahead? Yeah. That's, we were just talking to someone previously. People are saying, will it go ahead? I think this thing is going ahead. I think it's already happened. So my gut feel is it is going ahead. I could be wrong. Is it likely that it won't? It doesn't look good. People are already getting offers from developers, big ones. And they're not just offers, they're deposits going down on people's houses. If I was prepared to part with $500,000 or $1 million as a deposit, regardless of whether it goes ahead, I've got some pretty serious confidence about the fact this is all happening. So not to say it happens, but I think there would be developers out there that possibly have a direct line into the government, and the government is saying, hey, it's probably going ahead, or it is going ahead, or it has gone ahead. And that would explain why developers are really starting to push forward with confidence. So look, I don't know really what's going on behind the scenes, but this all of the signs would point towards confidence from developers. Offers are already happening in these areas, meaning that most likely this is all happening. So if you're sitting there going, well, I'm going to stop this, I don't like your chances. Ku-ring-gai Council is pushing back, but yeah, whatever. So criteria, 400 meters from station, that's a little bit grey. Is it direct? Is it a walking distance? Is it as the crow flies? I think it's as the crow flies, but all of these things will be yet to be revealed. Some other questions are, and I guess this is where people are a little bit worried, especially in Ku-ring-gai Council, is within this 400 meters, there's a lot of heritage conservation areas. There's a lot of heritage listed homes. There's biodiversity. There's a lot of stuff like that, which Ku-ring-gai Council are pretty serious about. So bottom line is it's most likely going to go ahead. Behind the scenes, we know developers, they're pretty hot to trot. They reckon it's happening. But look, Ku-ring-gai Council are pushing back. The main reason I believe, from what I can see, is Ku-ring-gai. If you live in Ku-ring-gai and you're listening to this, we all know they're pretty full on about trees, heritage, anything with history or environment, right? So environment, history, heritage, conservation, trees, wildlife, and that's what makes Ku-ring-gai pretty special. So, on a serious note, Ku-ring-gai Council are a little bit upset. They're worried. And so are the residents, for good reason too, especially if all of that's going to get wiped out. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The local controls, being heritage and biodiversity, which are the two things that will affect history of nice buildings and also the greenery, state government is saying the existing controls within council, so being Ku-ring-gai in this instance, will not be affected. The experts are saying, hey, looking at all the documentation, I think it's a little bit grey. And I'm not smart enough to give you an answer on that. But if the experts are saying it's a bit grey, the state government are saying it's all going to be okay. I think the outcome is it is grey. There's going to have to be a discussion about this because as it's written so far, it's looking like the controls are possibly under a little bit of pressure. There could be a little bit of a grey area, meaning maybe the heritage controls won't apply. Maybe the biodiversity won't apply. And if that's the case, people are going to lose their minds. It's hard enough to get a dead tree removed in Ku-ring-gai Council. So if this is a green light for some reason for developers to cut down trees and knock down heritage buildings, there's going to be an uproar. That is a really hot topic at the moment. What's the bottom line? State government is going to say, don't worry, everything's okay. It's not going to affect it. The council is saying the way we're interpreting means it could be under threat. That's the big hot topic. I don't know the answer. I've spoken to some experts. They don't even understand it. State government are going, she'll be right. And the council is saying, I don't think it is going to be okay. So that's where it's at. Could there be some changes to this? Maybe. The councils are being consulted. How did this all come about? Well, it was only all announced in December, so this is all pretty fresh. Couple of months back, Merry Christmas, by the way, you'll now be able to have 6 stories built next year is pretty full on. Who does this upset? I tell you what, if I'd sold my property in October or November for $5 million and now it's worth 10, I'd be a little bit upset. Has that really happened? Yes. People are getting offers, huge numbers, from 8 to 12 million, depending on land size, for a house that's probably worth 4 to 5 as a residential house. But as with these new changes, we've seen properties double and triple in value overnight. So that's where it's at. But this is where it gets really interesting. There is a second thing that is totally unrelated, and this affects everyone in New South Wales. Everyone. So it's the proposed housing diversity reforms. Totally different topic, but I think a lot of people have kind of squished them together. So the good news is this isn't approved, but it's proposed, which means where there's smoke, there's fire. If I propose a reform as the state government, I'm giving you a clear indication of where I'm heading. Whilst this isn't approved, I would probably say to myself, it's most likely going ahead in some form. So the diversity reforms, what are they? It's in relation to low rise and dual occupancy. The government and I guess land developers and I guess the experts at large, they call it middle density. It's also known as the missing middle. It's those kind of properties, they're called, they're the manor type houses, they're dual occupancy, they're multi-dwelling terraces. You see them in certain areas. There's not a lot out of them. There's not a lot of them around. That's why they're called the missing middle. That's the whole point of it. It's to create more of these things. There is no rezoning. That's the other misconception. They're not going to rezone anything. From my understanding, what they're allowing you to do is do more within the current zone. Who does it affect? Every single station in New South Wales, within 800 metres. That's who it affects. It allows for different types of housing within existing zones. We've talked about those 3 different types, mainly the manor style, the dual occupancy and the multi-dwelling. When I looked into this a little bit further, because, as I said, I'm not a property developer, but what I can see is in an R3 zone, they'll be allowed to build something bigger than they could have before. If it's an R3 zone and you're within 400 metres, you'll now be able to go 21 metres high at a 3-to-1 ratio. Looking at this, trying to understand it, in short, you'll be able to do more within the zones, R3 zones being one of them. So looking at it, these proposed reforms, it affects everyone. Reality is there is no rezoning. You're just going to be able to do more within the current zones. So R3 zones will possibly allow you now to do something bigger in the proposed reforms. If you're in an R3 zone, within 400 metres, you'll be able to now build up to 21 metres high and at 3-to-1 ratio. So let's assume it was 500 square metre block. You could have 1,500 square metres of potential living area and you could go 21 metres high. If you're 400 to 800 metres from the station, you'll be able to go 16 metres high at 2-to-1. So look, I'm not a developer. I probably don't know exactly how this is going to look, but from my interpretation, it affects everyone in New South Wales within 400 to 800 metres of each station in New South Wales. It affects R3 zones especially, and you'll be able to do a lot more than you could have before. So in short, you'll be able to go 21 metres high within 400 metres and 16 metres high between 400 and 800 metres. From my understanding, looking at this stuff just means you'll be able to do more within the current zones. In that 800 metre from the station, in every single station across New South Wales. It's proposed. It hasn't been approved. It's proposed, meaning it will likely go ahead in some fashion, probably get modified, possibly here and there, but the reality is the indications are clear. It's to increase the amount of properties in that missing middle segment. There aren't many of these properties, hence why the government has said, hey, we need more, we've got a housing problem, and this is a solution to it. So that's it. So If you have any questions about this is quite a complicated topic, please leave them in the comments section below. Message me, call me, do whatever you want, and I'll try and answer them for you.